All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see some of you here already in the chat talking to each other, if not necessarily to me. So, introductions being made from people in different parts of the UK. I don't know, maybe not in different parts of the UK. You guys might be in the exact same area and not even know it. So, that's the beauty of the internet, right? You can interact with people from all around the world and right next door without even necessarily knowing where they are. So that's always fun. But welcome. Good morning. Well, it's morning for me, obviously. Again, as usual, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Glad to see you guys jumping on here. And again, thank you for sticking with us. It's been a journey over the last few months, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit here this morning as we get into different things. But of course, as always, if you are watching live, jump in the chat and say hello. If you're watching, this is your first time, or maybe first time in a long time. Let us know where you're watching from. As if you're following the chat right now, you'll see there's a couple people in here, both from the UK. That's what I was talking about earlier when I first got on. I do apologize for some weirdness at the beginning with the blank screen. I've been playing around with different things with the streaming software, and I think I've got an extra scene in there that I accidentally clicked, and it was just blank for a while. So hopefully didn't lose anybody because it was blank there. But good to see everybody here. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are not already subscribed. My guess is if you're here with us live, you probably have already subscribed. But don't forget to like the live stream. It just helps the channel get us in front of more people. Also, if you're not part of the Discord channel, check into the Discord, Dev Mentor Dave Discord channel. There should be a link down in the bottom in the description of this live stream. And if that's not working, let me know in the chat and I'll get that fixed later on today. But it's supposed to be perpetual, but Discord, who knows? Who knows if it's going to work? So definitely jump into the Discord server, and we've got multiple channels in there for the different things that we're doing. Channels for just generic live stream, channels for help, channels for chatting, channels for the new live stream series that we're doing. So we've got the DeepPockets channel, and then we've got the brand new LinkedIn Lunch live stream channels in there for the new series that we're doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central United States time. So that's basically sort of my lunch hour. I think a lot more people take lunch like 11 to 12, but that fit better in my schedule. Since I do have a real job and I do have to actually work at it. I need to be there doing things, so it's important for me to not take off too much time in the middle of the day. And I know that doesn't work for a lot of you guys who are across the pond, and that's pretty late or early for you to be jumping onto a live stream. So I know that's not going to work for some of you, but maybe it works a little bit better than Saturday morning does for others. And really, the purpose of that live stream again is it's called the LinkedIn Lunch live stream. So maybe one of these days I'll be brave and actually eat lunch while I'm doing it. Probably not, because nobody wants to see that. But I will. What we're doing is we're going through LinkedIn, and I've got a separate LinkedIn account that I've created, and we're just looking at different posts, hopefully things around topics of interest for junior developers, whether it's coding things or whether it's advice or whether it's like job advice or things like that. We're looking at all those different types of topics, and we're basically going through different LinkedIn posts and things, and I'm giving you my opinion. And that doesn't mean that my opinion is perfect or right, but it's my opinion and it's my channel. So there you go. Hopefully it's helpful to you. I think it has been. We've had a couple of people on both of the live streams. We just started it this week. Both live streams had a couple different people on them with some great questions. And as always, I want to make sure that we're opening that up for questions so that people can ask hopefully things relevant to what we were discussing in the LinkedIn post, but even other things. So if you are able to watch and join us, certainly jump into that LinkedIn Lunch live stream every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Central United States time. So If you hadn't heard about that, that's a new thing that we just started this week. So check that out. They're only an hour long as opposed to 2 hour long sessions here on Saturday. So again, open to suggestions. If you have somebody you think I should follow, if you have somebody, a specific post or specific article on LinkedIn, again, I'd like to focus mostly on LinkedIn content. Because I think it's a good place to get content for junior developers, and I think it's a place where a lot of you already are and are seeing some of this content. And I want to help provide some feedback for that. That will hopefully help you along the way in your journey as a junior developer. So, yes, we're getting quite the UK following here, apparently. So, welcome, O'Neill. Welcome, Ming. Welcome, Ian and Mel. Good to see you all again as we hopefully get ramped back up here on the DeepPockets project and on our Saturday live streams. It's good to see you all jumping in here and already chatting away. Don't forget, if you are in the chat and if you have a question specifically for me, do @DevMentorDave. That'll just put a little red box notification in the chat, so it'll just be easier for me to see when that pops up, because I sometimes get rolling on stuff that I want to say and I don't always see all the questions, but we try to go back and find them if possible. So definitely feel free to jump in, because that's my goal for the channel, is to have these types of interactions. So that's exactly what we're here for. All right, so again, like, subscribe, comment, chat, be an active participant here this morning as we take a look at different things. I did want to do a reminder. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. We are a good bit behind now. And a lot of that is on me, because I've not been able to really put the time and effort into making other content. So one of the changes that we're going to be making to the Saturday live streams moving forward is I'm going to try to put some more content like I did last week. So last week we had some content around how to leave a job well. And what I'm going to do moving forward is try to have some of those kind of topics that I'm going to discuss each Saturday. So we are still going to focus first on the DeepPockets project and what we're doing there. Then we'll roll into some of these topics that I can then cut out and put either as shorts or things like that, just to kind of help get some more content out and boost the subscriptions and just reach for people who may not know that this channel exists. So just an FYI, so that you understand why I'm adding some of these topics in that we weren't doing before, and then also so that you don't get discouraged if you see shorts of stuff that you've already watched and or participated in. So that's what we're going to try to do moving forward, because I know above all else, Mel really wants to see me bake a cake live, and that's only going to happen if we reach our 5,000 subscriber goal by the end of 2024. So like and share. So share this content with others, encourage them to come and subscribe. We're at I think 31. I forgot. Hang on one second, I'll tell you. You probably already know. It's probably sitting right there in front of you. It's not sitting in front of me. Well, that's not helpful. Take me to the channel. Here we go. Okay. 3165. All right. 3165 is where we're at. We've been hovering right around 3150, 3160 for a while now. But again, we're going to try to use some of these different things with the live stream, the LinkedIn lunch live stream, and some of these other topics to try to get some better quality shorts and things out there for people, hopefully to pique their interest in what we're doing. So that's kind of where we're at with the subscribers and with the channel as a whole, and some of the content that we're going to be doing here, especially on Saturdays, and why we started the LinkedIn live stream, because I really don't have a lot of time to build extra content and create extra videos, nor do I make any money on the channel, so there's certainly no extra money to pay somebody else to do that for me. So we're just going to keep plugging along, trying to do live content and help help out where we can, and hopefully you guys find it helpful. So, all right, let's see. Ming says there's somebody on LinkedIn that gives advice in the UK market. Yeah, send me the link. Either do that. I don't know if you can put it here, or you can leave it on the comments section, or you can send it to me and just post it in the LinkedIn lunch live stream channel on the Dev Mentor Dave server. So send it to me and I'll make sure that I follow him on that channel. Oh, thanks, Mel. I know again it doesn't work perfectly for everybody, so it's nice to know that you're watching them. I did see a comment. I haven't had a chance to sit down and actually comment you. Of course, we were arguing in the Discord server earlier this morning too. So I don't know if you saw my last post or not, but it's an arguing morning for me, I guess. I don't know. All right, so let's take a look at the DeepPockets project. And a couple things I wanted to do. I wanted to, first of all, take a look at where we're at from a development standpoint. And then I wanted to, if you don't mind, find it and send it over to me. Thanks, Ming. Ming says I forgot his name, but I'll figure it out. So that's good. Be resourceful. That's the important thing. All right. So I wanted to take a look at where we're at from a development standpoint, from a ticket standpoint, kind of show you where I'm going design wise and what the future holds. I'm still working slowly at adding more designs. If you have looked at the Figma files lately, you'll see that there have been some slight updates. I'm still learning how to use Figma, first of all. And so there's a little bit of a learning curve with that. We use it at work, but from a developer side, we just use it for the information and the design and the view. We're not in there actively designing with it. So I'm still learning the ins and outs of that. So that's going a little bit slower than I would like, but we are making progress here and there. And as I design, then I will make tickets for the functionality. We still have a few tickets that are sitting out as well. So let's jump over to the screen and take a look at what is going on. If I can find my transition. There we go. Okay. So one of these days I need to get one of those boxes. I can just hit buttons and the transitions the way I want it to. Okay. So this is the DeepPockets project. I think it's called a Kanban board, if I remember correctly. Basically, it's just tickets to track, the work that we're doing. I did see, was it O'Neill? I think O'Neill put something in the Discord server earlier this week with a screenshot of this base layout. Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm going to switch you to this. I think, do I have? Let's see. Oh, you've got to push up. Okay. Well, let's go through that. Is this you? No, that's not you. Are you on the project? Are you not on this project? I'll have to figure out why you're not on that project and get you added to the ticket so you get some credit for it. We definitely want you to have credit, right? Okay. So this ticket will be done. Actually, it's technically in progress, and then we will. Okay, I'll make sure I get you added afterwards. I don't want to display the secret sauce to everybody behind GitHub. Make that too easy. Because right now this is where we're at with the app so far. So let me do this. I will. 3.16K. What are you talking about, Mel? I don't know what you're talking about, Mel. Maybe you're not talking to me. I don't know. Okay, so let's say I'm on. Let me just do a real quick branching strategy, okay, just so you guys see this again. So let's say I want to do get checkout B for new branch, and then live stream test just for that. Okay, so now I have a new branch called live stream test. I'm going to come over here to the DeepPockets project and app layout blades. Just under the content, I'm going to write, this is only a test. All right, and then over here, we should see this is only a test. Let me make that bigger. There you go. So this is new content that we just added. All right, so I've got that saved. I'm gonna come back over here. I like to do get status just to remind myself of what's actually been changed. All right, so I can see this has been modified. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get add, and that just adds it to the commit. All right, so if I do get status again, it shows it's in green, which shows that it has been added. And I can remove this from being staged by using this command if I wanted to, but we're just going to do this. By the way, get add period adds everything that's been changed. If I wanted to add a specific file, let's say I changed 3 files, but I only wanted to commit one of those files, then you could do like get add resources, views, etc., and get down to the actual file. You can also do that by the directory as well. So lots of fun things. I'm a command line guy, so I know a lot of you probably use like the built-in GUI for doing your commits, but this is what I do. All right, so get status shows this is ready to do get commit. This is only a test. All right, enter. So now if I do get status, it's not going to show anything is modified or waiting because it's all been set into a commit, right? So now that I've got a commit, I can do get push, not get push, get push. All right, and then it's just going to tell me, hey, this doesn't exist on the remote, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it. So that way it creates the remote, and now this is all pushed up to our GitHub. So if I go to GitHub here, I can go in here and notice it already tells me, hey, we noticed you pushed something here. So we're going to do compare and create pull requests. Also, you could just go to pull requests and new pull request if you want to. Base is the main, and then I'm going to push in what I did. Live stream test. Apparently I've got 2 of those. All right, one has an S on the end, the other one does not. Okay, so can you tell I do the same thing all the time? All right, so this is the only file. This is the only change that I want. Only file I'm changing. I'll create the pull request. Now the pull request is in, and then I'll be able to see it when I go to pull requests. Oh, wait, hang on. Did I not submit it? You idiot. Hang on. Great pull request. Boom. Okay, there we go. Now it's submitted. All right, so we can go to pull request, and there's the pull request. And then I'll be able to merge your changes in. So I know that was pretty quick, but it really isn't extremely difficult. So hopefully, if you have questions, just let me know. But hopefully you'll be able to push your changes up now once you've done that. So whenever you get a chance, go ahead and make a pull request for that, O'Neill, and we'll take a look at those changes and see if we can get that merged in and really get this app looking much better than it currently does. All right, so I'm going to go back to get checkout main, get pull. There we go. I always get pull. I don't know. It's just habit. All right, and then we're back to this. Okay, so everything's back to our main branch if we want to move forward from there. All right. So we don't have any, this is just I'm going to discard this here. Oop, cancel. So many different things. Close pull request. All right, so I closed that one. It's fake anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we don't have any other pull requests at the moment. O'Neill will get some in, or at least one. I don't know if you want to do it in multiple steps or if you just want to push one in, that's fine. But he's going to take care of that for this create base app layout. So we'll probably look at that next week on our live stream, unless he happens to pump it in here right now. I don't I don't know if he's planning on doing that right this second. Um, so oh, you also posted back. Great, thanks, Mel. Now I got to go to Discord and give my opinions again. All right. So this is where we're at. We still have. It looks like O'Neill might have done the menu component already, but we still have some other work that has tickets that needs to be done. And those have to do with the React layout components for the list and for the search. So let me pull up the design. Oh, 3.16K, I got you. Okay. It doesn't show anything past one decimal, I think, on the outside view. On my view it shows the full numbers of subscribers, so it's only 5 different though, so there's that. Okay, or two decimals, sorry, not one. Okay, so let's take a look at our design. So what we're still needing right now, O'Neill's got the main content area, he's got this, and he's got the top bar up here in his work. So we need basically this content area, this header area, the table with pagination included, and then also these things for search. So I've added a couple things. I added an edit button. I added new budget button, a duplicate button. We're not worrying so much about the functionality right now. We'll add the tickets for this functionality as we get further along. Right now we're just kind of starting. We're just building out a lot of the views, worrying more about kind of the design side of things, and then we'll get to a lot of the functionality here. Some of this might look a little bit different than it did before, again, just because I'm doing some learning myself with Figma. So as I'm learning, things might change a little bit, shift a little bit, so I apologize in advance for that. But this is the main page that you would come to when you open the app. This is just the budget list page. And then the next page that I've started working on is the actual budget page, whether that's a budget, I guess you could call it a budget edit page or whatever. It's the budget details page, really, more than anything. So if you scroll down, you will see this new page, and this I've started just kind of laying out some of the concepts for this budget page. So if you'll notice up here it says budget page, here it says budget list page, trying to add context to these views so you can see what is what. Excuse me. All right, so this is kind of the main budget, whatever the budget name is. And it gives you a button here at the top to add a category. And then these are accordions. So all of the categories will have an accordion because your category can be attached or can have multiple line items, budget line items, if you remember our database concepts. So the budget line items will be displayed inside the category that they are associated with. Again, not all this design is completely done or polished yet. These buttons are a little high. They need to come down a little bit. But this will be kind of a bar, a progress bar, showing how much of that budget line item's budget has been spent. So we'll be able to... There'll probably be more buttons here as well to view the budget line item, to view like the transactions that are part of that line item, things like that, that have been associated to it. So again, this is kind of the beginning here. And as you see, when I started working on this, but basically when you open, if you edit a category or add a category, then we'll actually have a drawer that slides out from the right, and that'll be where the form is for that stuff rather than a modal. But that's kind of the direction that we're going. Again, I apologize. This does take a little bit of time. If anybody knows Figma and design and wants to jump in and take over that and just have me describe what I want, that would be awesome. But unless and until that happens, you're stuck with my slow design skills. So as I get some of this stuff buttoned up here, I will start adding some more tickets. So if you would like to grab a ticket that already exists, this one is already done. But if you would like to work on either the table or the where's it at? Here we go. The table or the search functionality, or even just the header if you just want to try to tackle that in the main paper area. It's kind of up to you what you would like to grab, but please grab a ticket. I know, Anil, I need to get you access. I'll try to get you access to that, but please grab a ticket and move the tickets along so that people know what is available and what is not available. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, but I will be adding more tickets probably this week to start fleshing out some of the design and functionality. At least mostly front end. We'll get to back end stuff a little bit more as well. But I'll start fleshing out some more of the stuff that we need from design. One of the reasons why I want to take the time and actually talk through these designs with you guys is that it's really important as you're visualizing, as you're working on things, to think about the usage, right? To think about how the user is actually going to interact with this, what's actually going to happen. So instead of just putting a button on the page, I want to think through, when I click on this, what's going to happen? What is the purpose of this button? Talk through the functionality. So as you're developing, as you're designing, you know what the goal is, you know what the plan is. And so you're able to kind of think through even things that we might forget in the design process and be able to, even offer suggestions, because all that is part of the process of developing an application, especially when you're working as a team. You definitely want to have a lot of communication. You want to have feedback. You want to have a voice in the process, because just because somebody designs something doesn't mean it's the right design or the right way to implement those design concepts. Just because somebody has a lot of experience developing applications doesn't mean they have all the perfect knowledge of the best way to do it. One thing I found is every application is a little bit different, and so even if you have lots of good design, there's going to be functionality, there's going to be back-end differences from one project to another that you're going to have to think through and really figure out. The other thing is, a lot of times, especially if you've got designers who are not developers, a lot of times they design things that look awesome, but will take a lot of time. and time is usually not something that we have on most projects. Now, obviously, this one we've got a lot more flexibility because it's a community project. There's no deadline to it. But when you're doing actual client work, there are deadlines. There's money being handed over, which is one of the things we're going to talk about today. Money is exchanging hands, and because of that, we've got to design things that make sense, that are easy for us, or not easy, that are reasonable for us to be able to develop within the time frame that we have. So that's one thing where communication really comes into play on a team, especially, is between design and development, to make sure that that what's being designed can be produced in a timely manner. I always tell clients, we can build anything. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take and how much money you want to spend. Most things are not necessarily hard to do or impossible to do. It just takes time and money. And so that's something that you have to be aware of as a team member, and as a client, and as a designer, as a developer, just making sure that there's that good communication. Because it happens. Designers are really good at coming up with cool stuff, and developers are not as good at making the cool stuff come to life all the time. So there's that reality. But that's where we're going with the next few layers of the design here. And again, we'll keep adding screens to this as we go, because of the way Figma is when it comes to free stuff. We'll just kind of add more screens to this this setup here. But I'll keep you guys in the loop on where we're at with things every Saturday, and kind of walk through the functionality as we add it there. I've been buying time, O'Neill. I've been buying time. Good job. All right, so O'Neill says he's pushed up the changes here, so let's jump back over and find out. All right, so we've got two different pull requests here. We'll do them in order. Number 19. So let's take a look at these changes. So we got 3 file changes. Let's see. App.css, okay. So these are just some basic CSS changes. I'm not real worried about that right now, unless there's like an obvious code issue, which not usually. I don't usually see code issues on CSS files. So once in a while you do, but not necessarily. All right, so we're importing the CSS. Very good. And then here we've got div class logo, DeepPockets. So let's see here, div class logo. So in your logo, you're doing. Oh, you're just doing text. I got you. Okay, cool. That makes sense. We're not using an image. All right, and then we've got our nav menu, and we've got the main app with content. So one of the things, I'll have to look at your next PR. You probably already did it in your next PR, but we're probably going to use a different React file for that, would be my guess, React component. So we'll take a look at that. But for now, this all looks good to me. So let's pull it down and test it out. Okay. Well, that helps if you see, moving from different Git repositories, they do different things on that copy. Git checkout. What? Oh, that just copies. Ugh, that's annoying. Okay. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Oh, someday I'm going to learn to type and my life will be so much better. Okay, now we can pull it out. Okay, just one thing real fast, O'Neill. Typically, what I would prefer is that we do like a ticket number for, so when we do a get checkout dash B, I would do something like, well, we don't have tick numbers. I forgot. Stupid GitHub. Yeah, I guess this is actually fine. Never mind. You're good. I forgot that we don't have numbers on here. Let's see. Okay, so get pull just to make sure I got everything. Okay, so I'm already up and running. Let's see, our changes are here. Very good. And let's take a look at this. Boom. All right. So this is increased in size. There we go. Okay. So here we've got our left nav, our main content area, and our navigation at the top. So this all looks good. I don't, whoop, this all looks good. I don't see any issues. So I didn't have any problems, nothing to migrate or anything. So we're going to go up here and go to this pull request and say, let's see. Where's the review? Where's the review? Files changed. Review changes. All right. We're going to approve. Boom. Submit. All right. And now we will merge it. Yes. All right. We've got another merged PR, everybody. We need like a bell or something to ring. All right. So that is merged in. One thing that I do if you're doing lots of PRs really fast in succession, it's not a big deal. But if you, especially if you have a PR that sits out for a while, one of the things I recommend is as soon as you've got other PRs merged in, periodically do a merge, develop, or main, or whatever it is that you're on back into yours, just to make sure your pending PRs stay up to date. But we're doing this in rapid succession, so let's jump over to check out this one. Get pull just for fun, up to date, good. All right, excellent. So let's take a look at this PR. All right, we've got and this is what I was talking about, right? So we've got all of this content here. We don't really need in this PR because um it's now in main, right? So if I come back over here and I do get checkout main, get pull, make sure that's up to date. It is. Get checkout. That and I'm gonna do a get merge main into this branch. Oh, we've got a conflict. Okay, so let's check that out. So we've got a conflict on this file. All right, and the conflict is this right here, because this is the new thing, right? Because this is what it was before, this is what it is now. Okay, so we can accept the current change. Although, do we want ID app? That's a good question. So here's the fun thing about figuring out what we should do. I think we still want ID app, don't we? Let's come down here and look at your updated file. No, it doesn't have, because we're doing yield content here. Where is the yield content? Do we have, well, let's look at this. All right, so we have in our app.jsx file, we have app and we have nav menu. We're loading component app inside the ID app, and we're loading the nav menu inside the sidebar ID. So let's take a look at something else here. Let's take a look at our index. So we have a div called app in the index file, right? So that means we don't need a div called app here, which is why probably you got rid of the ID app there. That makes sense. Is index.blade a new file? No? Okay. All right, so we need to fix that change. So we will accept the current change, which gives us a sidebar and gives us main, and our content has the app ID. So all of that should work, and we'll find that out later. All right. So I think that's the only conflict that we had. It is. All right, so get status. That shows us that we've got this file that has been changed. So we'll just do get add. Oops. Okay, get push. All right, so, oh, I have to get commit. Sorry, get commit. Fixing merge conflicts. Now get push. There we go. Okay, so now when we come back over to this guy, we'll redo that. Okay, so that's just fewer, like we don't have our CSS changes anymore because that was already in main. We just have the specific things that were changed in this specific push. All right. That's one of the issues that you have when you're working on multiple things kind of at the same time. You do quick succession of your pull requests. So That's just what happens. Not the end of the world, but it is something you want to watch out for, and it's something you definitely want to do take some time and research and make sure you're picking the right things um, when you are making those updates, especially when you're dealing with conflicts. Make sure you're keeping the things that you need to keep, um, especially if the conflict is not necessarily something you changed. If it's interacting with something that was there before, you definitely want to take some time and look through it and just make sure that you're doing the right things. Let's see. Let's see. That's the error I tried to create. Yeah, exactly. So, um, excellent. I think that worked out well. We'll see how it looks here in just a second. Probably already has changed over here because we have it on hot refresh. But let's take a look at the code first. All right. So here we're importing the nav menu, which we're going to look at here in a second, and we're following this convention, which is good. So all of that looks correct. Let's move on to the nav menu. Importing menu items. This is fine. Sometimes you would pull some of this from like a database or something like that, but for this specific application, I think this is perfectly fine. So we've got a path name, great. We've got menu items, or icons, I'm sorry, and then the labels, excellent. All right, so we're returning a list, menu items, mapping, list item, list button. That all looks good. This would just annoy me from like a me standpoint. I don't think it's a standard thing, but I would just get rid of that line. But again, it's not something to complain about. This structure isn't necessarily wrong. I tend to, so I'll show you what I tend to do. When I come in here, and maybe I do it wrong. I don't know. But I tend to do my export up here. Export. And I usually just do export default function like that. That's what I tend to do, but I don't know that there is a perfect right way, to be honest with you, just because I haven't been working with React as much. So I don't have a problem with this, but I just wanted to at least state what I do in case it matters. If anyone else has any opinions, certainly feel free to throw those in here as well. So yeah, I know you can do it either way. I just throwing it out there the way that we typically do it in the applications that I've been a part of. Again, I don't know that there's a perfect right way to do it. That's just the way that we do it. But I'm not gonna require it by any stretch. So all this looks good to me, just at first glance from a code standpoint. Let's go down here. These changes we already looked at anyway because of the conflict. All right, so let's go test it out. We've got everything pulled down. Why is this still showing? I don't know. It's acting like I still changed something. Oh well. Who cares? Okay, so let's jump back over here and take a look. And boom, there's our navigation items. Obviously, they don't go anywhere at the moment, but that's perfectly fine for what we're doing. But they are there, and they're all there. Everything is in its right place, so that all looks good. All right, I have no complaints. Let's refresh. Good, it all works. So we'll go to review changes. Give them the standard. Great job. And then we will approve it and merge it. All right, so that has been merged, and I come back over here and do a git checkout main. Whoop. See, it's acting, I don't know what I changed. Let's see what I changed. Oh, haha. So, in case you're wondering what changed, I have some settings on my editor that automatically make changes to things like spacing and stuff like that. So that's what happened here. When I saved that file, it automatically updated some of the spacing on things. So yeah. So we'll just do git stash. I'm just not going to worry about it. Git check out main. Typically, I most of the time when I stash something, I'm not planning on coming back to it. So it's just a way to clear that out. There's probably a better command, and I just don't remember what it is. Yeah, so we're up to date with main. Just double check it. No, we're not. See? Haha. This is why I always do a git pull. All right, so now we're on main. We should have the same result here, which we do. Bada bing. So now main has been updated with all the updates that O'Neill put in for the layout and for the list items over here on the menu. So good start. Thank you, O'Neill, for jumping in on that and pushing that forward. And again, we've got some more designs here that we'll be putting up. We still got some work to do with the actual content area. And I think I'll probably put in some stuff for the back end for that as well, as far as tickets are concerned. So if somebody's a back end dev and wants to tackle those, we'll get those in here as well. All right. Well, thanks to the PR, that took a lot longer time. So I'm going to jump right into here to the next kind of topic that I wanted to go over. Yeah, exactly. I pretty much use git stash just to clear things out or to get rid of stuff that I was thinking about that I probably won't actually end up using again. So, but yeah, no, that looks good, O'Neill. So I keep wanting to call you Richard because your last name is Richards. So it's throwing me off. And I know people whose last name is O'Neill, so that flip is throwing me off there. But yeah, so let's jump into kind of the topic that I had for today. And the topic for today, if you notice, the title of the live stream says "Start Making Money." Start making money. I know a lot of you are junior developers. We do have some senior developers who hop in here and are helpful and provide some feedback and things like that, and that's awesome. I appreciate that as well. But I know, yeah, clickbait, exactly. But I know a lot of you are, yeah, the man with two last names. Perfect. See, you guys are throwing me off. Quit talking so much. No, I'm just kidding. So I know many of you feel like you're just getting started, but I know some of you have been doing development, practicing and learning and growing for 2 years or more. And I know even with all that time that you spent working and learning, it can be really hard to think that you are ready to make money, that you're ready to get into a job, or maybe you've been trying to get into a job and you haven't had success getting hired, or maybe you're like me situation where you got hired and then it was not a good situation. But I know that it kind of seems like it's going to take a long time for you to get to a point where you're going to be able to get paid for being a developer. And one of the pieces of advice that I've given recently here on the channel that I've been thinking a lot about is the advice of how to go about structuring your learning process. And what I recommend is once you've kind of got the basics of development down, of programming down, of a language down, maybe even a framework like React or Laravel or something like that. Excuse me. One of the things that I recommend is that you begin to do projects, not just for project's sake, but you do projects for somebody else. That you do them, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, whether it's somebody you don't even know that you just meet online, but you do real projects because they're going to force you to actually learn things that you're going to need in the real world as you're doing this as a full-time job in the future. But one of the things that I have said in the past is you don't have to necessarily get paid to do that side project or that practice project. It can just be a practice project. And while that is still true, I do want to encourage you that you can get paid. And in my opinion, really, you should get paid to do a project like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with taking on a project just for the experience and the learning. But if you've put in a year or maybe even 2 years or more of learning, you probably are at a place where you've developed enough skills that you can get paid for what you do. Now, is it going to be the same that, somebody who's been doing it at a regular job is going to get paid? Probably not. Are you going to have to do it for a lot less than maybe normal freelancers that have been doing it for a while would do it for? Sure, absolutely. I mean, let's say even if it's like $10 an hour, right? That's still $10 an hour on your learning and growth that you're earning rather than spending, right? Obviously, whenever you get into something new, you're gonna have the need to spend money most likely if you want to get good training and things like that. Can you do it all for free? Yes, but if you really want to push your career forward, you're probably going to spend some money in some ways in that process. But I really encourage you, if you're to a point where you're building projects for yourself, look for freelance gigs. Even if you're really undercutting initially what you will eventually be worth, it's worth the opportunity to deal with the anxiety and the elation of being paid for your work. Because at the end of the day, you need to remember this: your time is valuable, and it's valuable to you in how you spend your time, but it's also valuable to other people in how you offer your skills to them. And so if you're going to put time into working on a project for somebody else, even if it's a minimal fee, I would encourage you to charge a fee. And I would encourage you to actually start putting some profit back into your time. You spent a lot of time, and it's been a lot of pay out, and now it's time for you to get some profit coming back in, or at least some getting even if it's not profit. All right. So I want to encourage you, as you continue on in your journey, especially if you're having a hard time finding a job, or if you're maybe not quite feeling like you're ready to jump into that world of job hunting. I would encourage you, help yourself in your process of practicing by building real projects, but do it for a real client. It doesn't have to be a big project, doesn't have to be something super complicated, but it will help you, whether you end up doing freelance work for the rest of your life, or whether you end up working at a job or multiple jobs throughout your career. It will help you get a better understanding of how the business works, of how your time is valuable, not just to you or your company, but to your client, and some of those relational interactions. And so I want to encourage you, don't just sit there and feel like you've got to do all this practicing in the privacy of your own home or the coffee shop or wherever it is that you go to do your work. Turn that work into some profit. And again, it's not going to be massive profits probably, because you're going to be slow. You're going to mess things up. It's not going to be perfect the first time out of the gate. And so you're going to take a lot less probably for your first few projects than you would for future projects, obviously. But you're also using those projects to help you grow and learn in your career. So with that in mind, I want to encourage you with some of my ideas and concepts and thoughts around this idea of earning while you are learning and while you're growing, while you're advancing your career. And I think it's important to understand that your time is valuable. It should be profitable for you as soon as you can allow it to be profitable, as soon as you can get into some sort of relationship that will give you the opportunity to turn your hours into profit. But I think you also need to remember that you have a skill set. No matter how small or big in your mind, you have a skill set that that other person doesn't have, that that client doesn't have, most likely, unless you're doing freelance work for a development firm. You're probably doing freelance work for a company or for an individual who either doesn't have the skill set or doesn't have the time to be able to do that themselves. So what you're offering, well, to you may not seem like it's very valuable. To them, it could be extremely valuable. And you just need to be clear and upfront with where you're at in your process as a developer and what it is that you can offer right up front at the beginning to make sure that, you know, you have a good understanding of the project, that they understand what they're getting and for the money that they're spending. And we talked about this a lot early on with the DeepPockets project when it comes to dealing with clients and things like that. So I don't want to spend a bunch of time there necessarily. You can go back and rewatch some of that stuff. But I do have a few pieces of advice for the person who wants to take up this challenge and actually start building projects for friends or family or, you know, companies around them, just small businesses, people that might need just a small little project to manage people logging in for their time, or to manage, you know, their you know, we build a lot of CRMs, right? So build to manage their clients and their requests that come in, and manage how they process those requests and the workflow. Like there's a lot of pretty simple things that would actually help a lot of small businesses that maybe they don't know are out there, or they don't want to buy some big product that gives them too much stuff that they don't need and it's just confusing. You know, custom software is really, in my opinion, the best thing to get into because every business really could use custom software. They just buy into the marketing of places like Salesforce and things like that. So I think that there are opportunities, but you're going to have to find them. They're not just going to land in your lap probably. So there is going to be a little bit of salesmanship there, but I want to give you a few pointers after you've landed that project, and maybe even while you're in discussions of that project, that hopefully will help you as we talk about wanting to start making money, even as a junior developer, even as somebody who's not necessarily employed full time, to be able to earn while you learn, right? So the first thing that I want to suggest is that you do not offer flat rates, flat project rates. Every client wants a flat rate for the work that you do. And that's 100% understandable, because a flat rate allows them to budget and know it's only going to cost me this much to get what I want. The problem is, from a development standpoint, there are many things that can cause a flat rate project to become a liability, right? Instead of having a profit from it, you're going to end up putting more time and effort into it to finish it. And the biggest issue with that is the unknowns. So when you get into a project, it almost does not matter how well you planned it out. I've had some very light planning projects, and I've had some very intense planning projects. And no matter how much time we spent in planning, something always comes up. There's always something that the client forgot about, or something that you didn't take into account initially, or just things that you just didn't know, questions that you didn't think to ask, and so you didn't know information. And there will always be something that will cause that project to get bigger, or to be more complex than you thought it was going to be. So it might not be that things get added to it. It might just be that what you thought would take 10 hours takes 30 hours. Just because the complexity of it, you didn't maybe understand it completely when you placed the bid. And so either you're going to multiply your estimation so much that you're not going to get the job, or you're often going to undercut yourself most of the time when it comes to flat rate project billing. So don't offer flat rates. There's going to be unknowns. There's also going to be scope creep. There are going to be things that as you're building it, no matter how well you designed the designs at the beginning, the client's always going to come back with changes. And those changes are not always just little simple changes. Those changes can often be things that they completely forgot about, or things that they want to completely change in their workflow to make it better for them. And I'm not saying that it's wrong for them to want those changes, but when it comes to a flat rate, you've got to then figure out, okay, how is this going to affect the project? And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is new developers will just kind of allow the client to run the show, and they'll start adding in this scope creep, and at the end of the day you're just limiting your profits. You're lowering your profits and probably eliminating them over time as you are spending more and more time on the scope creep. All right, so those are things that are going to affect the flat offer. So I typically recommend that you do an hourly rate. Now, again, as a junior developer, that hourly rate might be really, really low. And that's fine, because again, you're earning while you're learning, right? So it's okay to do low fees now while you're in the learning phase, and while you're just doing kind of side projects. I would say, though, don't underestimate yourself. Don't undercut yourself. Don't make the price so low, and we'll get to this here in a few minutes, but don't make the price so low that you can't, that you look like you don't know what you're doing, right? You want to try to find a good balance of low pricing because you are learning, but decent pricing because your time is actually valuable, because you have a skill that they need. Along with that, even though you're doing an hourly project, you're still going to have to do estimates, right? Just remember that estimates are not promises. And I think that's where we get into trouble a lot of times, especially with flat rate projects, is basically a flat rate is saying this is the estimate and this is the promise. And an estimate is not a promise. An estimate is an estimate. I think it's going to take this amount of time. And estimates are going to be pretty off when you get started. You're going to be, one thing's going to take a lot less time than you thought it would, and another thing's going to take a lot more time than you thought it would, just because you don't have that experience yet to know how long certain types of things are going to take for you to interact with and to develop. So that's going to come with time. You're going to estimate better with time, hopefully, if you're keeping track of it and trying to do well at it. But that's another reason why a flat rate is a bad idea, because your estimate is just an estimate, and you need to be able to have the flexibility to say, hey, this took me twice as long to do, so I need to be paid for the time that I spent on it. And that's where doing an hourly rate is going to be much more beneficial to you from a profit standpoint, but it's also going to help you not get burned out, because flat rate developers tend to get burned out faster than hourly developers, because a flat rate developer feels like they have to cut corners, feels like they have to do things fast, and they often don't produce a very good product because they're trying to fit under a budget rather than fit within what the client needs, and just offering hours as they're able to pay for them. Now, some clients don't like that. They're just not going to go for an hourly rate, and I think you should be willing to let them go, because clients who insist on a flat rate are clients typically that don't understand development, or they just don't care. They're just trying to take advantage of you. Most of the time it's that they don't understand development and what actually goes into it. But there are some that will just try to take advantage of you. So as you're doing this, don't offer flat rates. Now, I have actually had somebody ask me before, isn't a salary basically a flat rate? Not really, and for a couple of reasons. One is, in my opinion, you should estimate your salary based off of what the expectations are for your hourly contributions. So if your company, and I would ask this in an interview, I would say, what do you expect hours-wise from your employees? Now, obviously, there's going to be times where it's going to be more due to demands, but like, what's the average hours spent? So if the average hours spent is 40 for a week, then I would take, how much I want to make for the year, then, boil that down to what that looks like per week, and then boil that down to what that looks like per hour based on 40 hours. If they require more hours than 40 hours, well, now that's going to increase what you're going to be asking for your salary. because at the end of the day, what you want is you want your salary to be commensurate with the hours that you're putting in and the value of those hours that you're putting in. So that's one reason why salary is not necessarily the same as a flat rate position, because you should be basing it off of the hours that you're most likely going to work and how much you want to make per hour there. So that's one reason why, in my opinion, salary is not a flat rate. It's not like flat rate project work. Also, because typically when you're working for an employer, you're not just getting a salary, you're also getting benefits most of the time, which add to the value of what you're getting, quote, per hour, that you don't have in these freelance gigs. So a salary would not be the same as in that way as well. And then thirdly, the reason why a salary isn't the same as just flat rate project work is you don't control the relationship typically in an employer-employee standpoint with the client. You're not the one who's making the negotiations. You're not the one who's deciding how much more time we're going to put on this project, what pieces we're going to do on the project. More than likely, especially as a junior dev coming into a company, you're going to be just doing work. You're going to be doing tickets. And so that's why, again, it's not your job or your responsibility to figure out the time frame or the value of that project to the company. And so you're being paid for your time, and it should be based off of the hours that you're going to be spending. So that's why they're not really the same thing. At a first glance, you could kind of think that a salary would be like, because you're just getting one set amount of money for the year, that's going to be like this freelance flat rate, but it's really not the same. There's so many more pieces that go into that. Okay, so there's a few other things here. You guys are talking amongst yourself. I don't see anything specifically for me, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. Ming says built a real project for a friend and needed the experience with a client. Yeah. But you would definitely charge now. Exactly. Right? I think that's the thing. When you start doing things for free, you start realizing how much work it actually is. And once you start realizing how much work it actually is to do the projects, then you begin to realize, I need to get paid for this. So absolutely. You need to at least get an estimate and explain it to them. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, welcome, Justin. Good to see you. Also, make sure that you have a route for change order requests. Yes, absolutely, Ian. You need to, at the beginning, we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the DeepPockets project, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you definitely want to make sure that you are clear in how that process is going to work if they want changes. Because they never want to pay for the changes. They never want to take things out of the project because they wanted to put other things in. And at the end of the day, most of the time, they will, if pushed, they will take things out and make adjustments, or they'll just pay for the extra stuff. I've rarely seen a client just walk away because I wasn't going to give them the moon, right? They're trying to get it, and they're trying to get it as cheaply as they can, but at the end of the day, if they're a business person, especially, they understand the value, and they're going to pay what it takes to get the job done. $50 an hour and 10 to 30 hours. Nice. Ming says at 100 devs, I was always taught to give double the time frame, increase something in case something goes wrong. You'll still have extra time to find help. Yeah, I would still. I mean, so that's a two-edged sword, right? When you're first starting out, especially, you definitely want to pad the time that it's going to take you to do something. However, the longer that you're doing this professionally, you really should be at least getting closer to more accurate estimates. Here's what you don't want. You don't want to constantly be coming in under or over your estimate. Obviously, constantly coming in over your estimate is going to be bad because they're going to assume that you don't know what you're doing. Constantly coming in under your estimate means that they're going to stop trusting your estimates, and they're going to start assuming that the estimate is greater than it's going to be. And so then, when you start to actually come back into balance and hit those estimates closer, they start getting upset because now they're actually paying what you said they were going to pay, and they were expecting it to be cheaper because you kept coming in low in the work. So it's a two-edged sword when it comes to adding padding. But obviously, when you're first starting out, you want to add padding just because you're going to need it most likely to keep expectations in check. But as you grow in your development journey, you really should be getting closer and closer to figuring out what that actually looks like for most types of work. Obviously, every project is different, every ticket is different, but there's similar types of things that you're going to be doing over your career, and you can generally get a decent estimate over time of what that takes for you. And sometimes that will change over time as tools change. We've got things now that we didn't have before to be able to just, in editors, provide help to add things quickly. Frameworks that we didn't have in the past that make it faster for us to do things. So there's definitely opportunities for that to decrease over time, not just through your own learning and growth, but even through tools and things like that. But you want to try to get as quickly as you can, get as accurate as you can, because that's going to help you the most with your client interaction, is staying on track there. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. That's a great quote, Ian. The first 90% of the project will take 90% of the time, and the last 10% of the project will take another 90% of the time. There is just something about finishing up a project. It's tough. Part of it is that clients don't always do the testing that they should do. And so when your clients are not doing the testing that needs to be done, they're going to come back with a lot of bugs at the end of the project that could have been found earlier in the project. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do about that other than trying to enforce some sort of user testing ahead of time. But yeah, that does seem to happen a lot, Ian, unfortunately. Justin says you have to give them a deliverable, the bare minimum, and then add after the meat of the project is complete. Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a minute as far as, what your how do you mitigate the concerns from a client. So I don't want to jump ahead of myself. Kelly says, I wish I could work for free to gain experience. Connie in here. Yeah. If you can, that's fine. But I would try to get paid as soon as you can, honestly, even for experience. Kelly says, I've been learning all kinds of languages and frameworks. Soon going to learn some mobile dev too. People talk about mastering one, but I have no specific target to help me focus on one. This is I think, a good thing to help with that. So finding a project that you can do for an actual client, even as a junior developer, even while you're still learning, helps you focus your learning. It helps you not jump around from one thing or another. You need to focus on learning one thing and learning it well, or learning two things and learning them well, so that you can actually produce the product that you said that you're going to produce. So I think, if you're jumping around from one language to another, from one type of work to another, I would look for a project to do as a freelance project to help focus your learning and make it a little bit better for you in the long term. We're going to talk about cheap clients, Ming. Very good. Who's hiring with no experience? Very few people, Justin. Unfortunately, right now, almost nobody's hiring for no experience. I wish they were. I wish there were apprenticeship programs like you do see in other trades. The problem is most companies are not set up to be able to take on that type of risk. And there are risks in hiring junior developers with no experience. One is the time. You've got to have time for mentoring, and most companies don't have a setup where they can afford to give time for mentoring. So that's probably the biggest factor, to be perfectly honest with you, from what I've seen. But I would say most of the companies that I've seen, I don't see anybody really hiring truly entry level workers for junior developers. So unfortunately, nobody really is right now. Yeah, Mel says she's been jumping around for 3 years now and haven't been able to master the basics. Again, I think that's where a project comes in and really helps you out with that, to focus on one thing. All right, so don't offer flat rates. Second thing, don't offer discounts. This sounds counterintuitive, especially as a junior developer. You're gonna be offering yourself lower. Um, but again, clients are always looking for the most bang for their buck, right? And if you, especially once you start doing a few of these, if you start offering discounts to friends, to family members, things like that, where you would charge more for somebody else, don't do that. Don't offer discounts, because to somebody else's question earlier, this is how you end up with cheap clients. And cheap clients are problem clients, because cheap clients are clients who are going to nitpick. They're going to not understand why your time is as valuable as it is. They're going to find problems and they're going to put it back on you. They're not going to take any responsibility for their involvement in the process. Bad clients are typically cheap clients. Some of the best clients I've worked with are clients that pay the highest fees that I've charged. And the reason for that typically is that they understand the cost of doing business. They understand that you get what you pay for. And they often are typically more, if they're charged more, they're typically more involved in the process in the right ways, where they want to give you the information that you need. They want to help you help them. They want the project to succeed because they're putting a lot of money into it. A client who's not willing to pay a decent price for the work that you're doing, they either don't understand development, they don't understand what's going to take to actually get them what they want, or they don't respect you as a developer. They don't respect what you're doing for them, and they don't see the value in what you're doing for them. They almost see it as, a requirement that they have to fulfill, or they see it as something that they're doing for you, especially as a junior developer, especially if you're dealing with friends and family. They're going to see paying you to do the job as helping you out. They're not going to see it as paying you to do something for them. They're going to see it as them helping you out. And so when you have a client like that who is a cheap client, they're almost always going to be a difficult client. So my recommendation to freelancers, and especially junior devs, is do not offer discounts just because you have a relationship with somebody. They're going to be your worst client. The people that you offer discounts to, especially if you make it clear that you're giving them a discount, they don't appreciate that. It means nothing to them. It just means that they're not paying as much for what you're offering. They're just cheap. That's the reality. So don't offer discounts, because you're just going to deal with the worst of the worst when it comes to clients. Also, don't offer discounts, obviously, because it limits your earning potential, right? If you go from $10 an hour to $5 an hour just to make it easier for your friend or your family member to be able to afford what you're trying to do, you're cutting yourself short, because you could be doing a different project for twice as much money. So by offering discounts to certain people to try to get a job, you're actually limiting the amount of money that you could be making. Now, is it true that you may not have another job that you could be doing? Absolutely. So I get that you may want to take the job. If you're going to charge less because you're willing to charge less. Don't charge less, and don't tell them that you're charging less as a discount to them. Always treat whatever you're charging as if it is your normal rate. All right? I charge different people different things for different amounts for different things that I do, because some things are really easy for me to do and quick to do, and some things are not. And I'm not going to explain what those prices are here, or who I give them to. But As far as the people who have been given those prices know, those are my prices. I've never told them that they're getting a discount because they're a friend or a family member or a client that's been around for a long time or something like that. That is the price. Now, a company might be able to do that as a marketing ploy a little bit, but from a freelance standpoint, if you offer discounts, you're going to get bad clients. You're going to potentially lower your possible earnings because you're offering discounts off of what you really know you're worth, and you're going to get a bad reputation. And I don't mean because you'll be doing bad projects or bad work. You're going to get a bad reputation because you'll be thought of as cheap, and you'll be thought of as a pushover. And you don't want to be known as cheap or a pushover. Now, there's a difference between cheap and inexpensive, or cheap and what's the word I'm looking for? There's a difference between being cheap and being cost effective, right? So you can be cost effective without being cheap. If you're offering discounts, you look desperate and you look like you're willing to do cheap work, and that's going to give you a bad reputation and make it look like people can push you around to do what they want you to do when it comes to your pricing. And once you start to get that reputation, it's really hard to pull back from that without basically cutting off those ties and kind of pursuing a whole new group of networking. So don't offer discounts. Let's see. There's some more things here. Looks like you guys are talking back and forth, so I'll let it go for now. All right. Next, mitigate client concerns. This is something somebody brought up here a couple minutes ago. So as you're doing this, as you're building a project and you're charging money for it, you need to do some things to mitigate the concerns of your client, because every client's going to be concerned about somebody doing work and paying them, especially if they don't know you very well. And if you connected with them on LinkedIn or something like that, or they're just a local company and you're doing this work here away from them, you're not going into their office every day and doing work for them, it's hard for them to know if they're getting their money's worth. And so there's a couple things that I would recommend. One is have regular meetings with the client. I would typically say at least 2 times a month, if not every week. Have a meeting with the client. And as you're doing your work throughout the week, keep accurate notes. Keep notes of the work that you have done for that week. And when you have that meeting with that client, go through those notes, just bullet points of the things that you worked on. Always try to have something that you can demo. I know there are times where maybe you spend a whole week working on back-end work and it's kind of hard to show people how things work in the back end, but maybe it's a matter of pulling up, something like Tables Plus, we've got, or whatever you're using over here. So maybe you're starting off with something like this where you're doing back-end work and you're just building out the database. Well, pull something up like this and show them the database. Show them, hey, this is what we put together. And maybe you've got some seeders or something like that put data in there that you're able to do, and you can run those and show them how that works. Have something to display. Obviously, once you've started actually building out the application and there's visible things, in the UI that you can start interacting with, that's great and much more helpful, because clients are visual people. They don't understand back-end development. They don't understand what it takes to actually make everything work. They only understand what they see. And not only what they see, they only understand what they can play with. So I would always recommend, if possible, if it's cost effective, try to set up some sort of staging environment so that you push changes there, you demo from the staging environment, and you give them access to the staging environment. So as you're putting things out there, you're having this weekly meeting, or bi-weekly, yeah. You're having this weekly meeting, or you're having this bi-weekly meeting, and you're showing them updates, but they're also getting access to play around with what you've created. That will keep them engaged, and it will mitigate the concerns that they have dealing with you and not knowing what you're doing throughout the week or throughout the couple weeks between those jobs, those meetings. So that's the best way to mitigate concerns. If you're constantly pushing stuff up and producing things, clients have much fewer anxieties about paying those invoices. They when they can see and play around with and notice that there's progress being made, they're going to pay the bill because they see that you're competent, they see that you're reliable, they see that you're trustworthy, and that's going to mitigate most of the concerns that they have. Now, is that going to make them a perfect client? No. You know, that's just going to give some of those clients are going to have more things to complain about if things don't work the way that they want right out of the gate. But this is probably the best thing that you could do to mitigate concerns from a client when it comes to you charging for work as a junior developer, as somebody who doesn't necessarily have a huge resume or tons of time spent doing this. So that would be my suggestion for dealing with clients. Let's see if there's anything else here. We've got some people who don't like the back end. Come on, guys, that's where the real money is, right? That's where real development happens, is on the back end. Do you guys not pay attention to any of the things that I say? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, a couple more things here. We're running low on time. All right, a couple more things. Remember not to charge for time spent in learning. Obviously, we want to earn while we learn, and that's a crucial part of this. But you want to be careful not to charge for time that you only spend learning. If you are spending time watching YouTube tutorials, don't include that in the time that you're working on the project. If you're learning and interacting with a tool that's not project specific, don't include that time in your project. If you're learning a framework or something like that, and the things that you're doing with that learning process are not impacting the project itself, don't charge for that time. I have seen this happen in the past, not just with junior developers, but even senior level developers who will take the time spent learning frameworks or packages or things like that, and they'll bill that to the client. Now, in some ways you can do that when you're working for an employer, but as a freelancer, that really it's not something that you should be doing, because you're basically you're basically charging the client for you to be able to learn and grow. And that's not the point. That's not what I'm trying to encourage you to do. I'm encouraging you to take the things that you are learning and turn that into some profit in the project. What I'm not saying is make somebody else pay for you to learn. All right? Because at the end of the day, they're gonna see that you spent a lot of time building this, and they're gonna spend a lot of money, whether it's a few $100s or tens of thousands of dollars. They're gonna spend a lot of money for you to produce something, and you need to be charging them ethically and appropriately. So don't charge for your general learning aspects. Now, if you are implementing something and it just takes a while for you to make it work within the project, that's one thing. But if you're just learning how a framework works or how a library works, and you're not actively inputting it into that project, don't bill that time. That seems like a no-brainer probably to most people, but there are some people out there who will see that as an opportunity to earn more. And I just want to encourage you that it's A, not ethical, and B, you're going to set yourself up for problems later on down the road. All right, and that kind of leads me into the last one, which is don't sacrifice long-term success for short-term gain. All right, don't cut corners. Don't harm yourself just for this one project. Think about your long-term future as you do the projects. When you're pricing your hours, think about where you want to be in the next few years from a pricing standpoint. And don't undercut yourself. Think about your relationships in your life and how taking this project on is going to impact that. And Be reasonable in the time that you promise you're going to be able to give. It's easy to say, I'm going to be able to dedicate 30 hours a week to this project, and here's the hourly rate that it's going to be. And then you either end up, messing up your health because you stay up too late, you spend way too much time working and not enough time relaxing or sleeping or eating right, things like that. Or you're going to ruin relationships because you don't have the time because you've got to get this work done. Or you're going to ruin your relationship with your client because you don't end up actually spending the time that you said you were going to be available, and the project's going to slow down and you're not going to get things done that need to get done. So all of that plays into your long-term success. Your health plays into your long-term success. You're not going to be successful long-term if you hurt your health now. Your relationships aren't going to be there long-term, whether that's personal relationships or professional relationships, if you hurt them in the short term just to try to get something now the way that you want it now. Build up. Realize, again, this is a career path. This is a progression. This is not just one project that you're doing. This is the beginning of a lifetime of being a developer and maybe doing freelance work for all of that, or moving that into an actual job with an employer someday. So don't sacrifice the long-term success for short-term gain, but if possible, do everything that you can to try to turn your learning into earning. Make your time profitable. Make your time spent learning and growing as profitable as you can. And honestly, that will help you stay motivated and help you keep going. Even during those times like these where it's hard to find a job, companies aren't hiring entry level. Having some form of income from the work that you're doing that you want to do not only gives you experience to talk about in interviews and put on your resume, but it also gives you a little bit of cash in your pocket, makes you feel a little bit better about the time that you spend doing it. So that would be my recommendation for starting to make money. All right. Let's see. Yeah, life has a way of getting in the way. It absolutely does. And you need to plan for that. You need to be realistic when you're setting up expectations, both for yourself and for your clients. So absolutely. All right, well, that's everything that I had specifically around that topic, unless you guys have some questions that you want for me. Again, as always, if you have a specific question for me, do at DevMentorDave. It puts a little red rectangle around it so I notice it a little bit better if you have any questions. Or right now, we'll open it up for the next 25 minutes-ish. I'll stay on, and if you guys have any questions, whether it's about this topic or about any topic, it's kind of an open Q&A time, so feel free to drop any questions that you might have in the chat, and I'll take a look at those and answer them the best that I can based on my experience and knowledge. So let's see. Yeah, so much hate for the back end. Back end is sweet. Good. Hey, there you go. Kelly's on the back end side. But Kelly hates the front end though, so it is true. There very much is typically like you like one or the other. It's hard to find somebody who likes both equally. I would say I'm ambivalent. I don't necessarily like or hate either side. But if I had a preference, it would probably be back end though. Ming says, I had an interview this week and they said that they would get back to me after 1.5 weeks as the CEO is on holiday. Is that reasonable? I would say depends on the size of the company. It's probably typical. I know I actually had to select another job because this happened to me. So one of the times I was looking for a job, I had two companies. Two interviews pretty much at the same time. I got an offer from one of them, and the other one said they wanted to make me an offer, but based on their internal process, they had to go through. It wasn't a CEO, but it was somebody else who was on vacation, and they were going to try to get a hold of them while they're on vacation to try to get, because they knew that I had another offer. And the company that gave me the offer basically said, we need an answer by the end of tomorrow. And I never was able to get, I stayed in communication with the other company and they were actively trying to get me an offer and it just didn't work out. That does happen, Ming. Depending on the size, that was a smaller company. Depending on the size of the company, that could be an issue. I would I would not assume that they're doing anything nefarious there, unless they just don't get back with you. If they're really interested in you and it is just a matter of the CEO signing off or having input, then they're going to get that done. Um, Typically, when a company is trying to hire people, if they found somebody that they want to hire, they want to move quickly as quickly as possible, at least in my experience. So, so I would say I would not see that as a negative necessarily unless they don't get back with you within the next 2 weeks. Um, that would be my main concern. Um, but yeah, I would agree with others that are chatting here. Definitely keep looking. Don't just put your eggs in that basket. Assume that they're not going to get back with you and keep looking, but be, but don't necessarily. How do I say that? Um, Treat it as if they're not going to get back with you, but don't treat it as if they are being uh, mean or that this is abnormal. Okay, especially for smaller companies, it is somewhat normal to see that once in a while, just based on their own internal processes. It's kind of a dumb process for anybody to set up to have that level of um, levels to their process, but yeah, I would assume that they're treated that it's true until they prove otherwise. It's kind of like what we have here in the United States and other places, innocent until proven guilty, right? We don't typically live that way, but we should, we should assume that somebody's being truthful with us until they prove otherwise. Um, that would be my approach. But I would also agree with others here. They're saying definitely keep looking. Don't just stop because you think they're going to make you an offer. Keep looking until you actually have an offer and have a job and are at the job and have signed all your documents and all that stuff. So definitely don't stop the looking process. Oh, that's an interesting question, Mel. You said before that the first person you mentored quit. If you could go back in time to the moment before they gave up, what would you do? Man, that's a tough one. Thanks for making things hard in the middle of at the end of the live stream. Good job. Um, it was a guy. He had just come out of a boot camp. Um, that's a difficult question because he didn't quit because of the mentoring. I think he quit more because I think the company more pushed him out, pushed him to quit. The company that I was working for, he was a contractor, I was a contractor. Um, I think there was just a certain level of expectation for what they thought he was going to be able to do. And at the end of the day, he didn't have some basic problem solving skills. And it was not the same mentoring that I've done since then. I think that's the big thing is I was not technically give tasked with mentoring him. It was more of a he was my first mentee because I realized he needed help. Um, we didn't have any sort of arrangement that he was expecting me to mentor him. I was just helpful and he would come to me for help, and so I would try to mentor him along the way. I think maybe with that, especially now with the knowledge that I have, I would offer more of a mentoring relationship. I think that's to me that is where that could have gone. That might have helped him more to actually turn it into a real mentor mentee relationship rather than just a coworker relationship. So while in my mind he's my first the first person I've mentored. There was not an official like, I'm your mentor, you're my mentee, we're gonna do this together. It was just coworkers, but it was me recognizing that he needed mentoring and trying to provide that outside of an actual structured environment. That it was clear that that's what I was doing. So I think that's the thing that I would change probably the most is make that official. Not necessarily that I needed to charge him for it or anything like that, but just like, hey, I want to help you not just fix this ticket or get this ticket done, but let's figure out what we can do to help you grow your career. I think that's what I probably would have done differently. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Ming says, I have another interview next week. They might ask me about project delivery. How do I describe that? As I haven't really worked in a team before. Do I mention Scrum, Agile methodologies? Yeah, so when it comes to questions about things that you've not done, my recommendation is to be honest and just tell people, I've not been in a team situation where I've done normal application deployment. You can describe any process that you've done to deploy any projects that you've done either on your own or for other people. That's why taking some time to learn some of that as you're building projects, actually deploy them to a real server. Maybe look into learning some CI/CD processes within something like GitHub or something like that. You'll want to learn that stuff. But I would typically recommend, and I've done this before even for myself, I'll just be honest and be like, I haven't really messed with that. I'm interested in it. I'd love to learn it. Always show an opportunity and a desire to learn new things. But just talk about what you have done. For me, it was, well, I use FTP FileZilla, right? And I push the files up through FileZilla because when I was first starting, I wasn't using version control. I didn't have Git or anything like that. So like I would have just described what I'm used to, but I'm interested in learning other ways or whatever is the best way or the way that the company prefers to do it. I'm more than happy to learn and follow that process. But I would just be honest in what I have and haven't done. Don't exclude things that I have done just because I'm scared that they won't like it. All experience is experience. And so it's one thing to say I've never pushed an application live. It's another thing to say I've only pushed my projects live and this is how I did it, even though that may not be enterprise level process, CI/CD process. This is how I've done it, but I'm anxious to learn how to do that in a more enterprise level environment. So I think there's ways that you can always turn inexperience or lack of knowledge into something that makes you hireable, and that is the ability and willingness to learn new things or adapt to how that company does things. That's how I have and how I would recommend somebody interact with those types of questions. That's a good point, Mel. People quit when they lose hope in their dream. I think that's another reason why I would encourage people to go ahead and try some freelance projects. Because if you can get paid for doing what you want to do, even if it's small, like that, it just feels good. I remember the first time I got paid for some website work that I did for my brother. It made me feel like I knew what I was doing. It made me feel like I could actually do the job. And was valuable. Now, that didn't necessarily translate to great decisions all the time when it came to, my compensation and things like that, but it certainly kept me motivated, kept me moving forward. So, let's see. Ming says, I'm also mentoring someone I met through Hackathon. I said that I'd only support people if they were proactive. If not, I wouldn't bother. Does that sound blunt and harsh or reasonable to sustain? So I have some other videos talking about mentoring. And one of the things that you have to remember when you are engaging in a mentor-mentee relationship is that you need to define what that relationship looks like. And that can look different from one person to another, from one relationship to another. Some relationships you're going to have more time for, or you're going to be able to meet with them face to face, whereas other relationships are all going to be online. And so they're going to have different dynamics. I don't think it's wrong to set parameters. In fact, I think you should set parameters for that relationship so that I know what to expect from you and you know what to expect from me. And along with those expectations comes then a responsibility to fulfill those obligations to one another. Whether it's the mentor providing leadership and direction and feedback, or whether it's the mentee and doing the things that they said they're going to do so that the person can give them feedback. It's a two-way street. Mentoring is a two-way street, just like all relationships. And so because it is a more professional relationship, especially, you want to make sure that you are laying out the ground rules for that. So are those ground rules harsh? Depends on the people you're dealing with, you know. The people who are willing to put up with that will allow you to mentor them, and the people that won't allow you to mentor them. And if that's what you need to do in order to protect your health and your time and your relationships and your earning potential, if you need to do those things to protect that stuff, then you need to do that. I think we need to get past this idea that everybody needs to give everything away, that everybody deserves to be given stuff for free. There may be an opportunity and a time where mentoring should be a paid engagement for a short period of time, in order to help somebody move past a certain thing or a certain level or a certain understanding, right? So I'm not saying that we should just move all mentoring to a paid mentoring model. What I'm saying is we need to not just assume that everyone should be out there to help me. And so that whether that's having a fee, whether that's having some strict regulations on how the relationship works, that's all up to the people who are entering into that relationship. And so there are many ways that you can slice that. There's many perspectives on what might be best. It's great if you can get it for free, but not everybody has the time to do that. And not everybody who has the time is willing to do it for free or willing to give you the exact thing that you want in that relationship. Maybe they only had the time to do part of it, you know? So I don't think it's wrong for you to set up those expectations as long as you are A, being clear about them, and B, following through on them, both in what you're requiring and in what you're giving back to the other person. Let's see. I've heard of paid mentors firing their mentee. Yeah. I mean, even if you're getting paid, if the person is paying you and they're not, it's like music lessons, right? If I'm paying for music lessons for my kids and they're not practicing, a good teacher is not just going to keep taking my money. A good teacher is going to tell me, look, you're wasting your money by paying for these lessons because you're not having them practice, right? So a good mentor is not just going to take somebody's money and not expect them to engage, right? And so you would definitely, a good mentor should fire mentees that are not following through on what the expectations are. Yeah, I would do that if I were doing a class or something like that. I'd just cut people loose if they're not following through. You know, it's one thing for someone to struggle; it's another thing for somebody to not try. And the ones that don't try are the ones that, you know, it's not worth the money. The time is not worth the money to put up with somebody who's not trying. So there's another question here from Ian. Has a recorded live stream has there been a recorded live stream about being a good mentee? If that person is not being a good mentee and you're not getting paid, I would not bother. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of in one group, I think. I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Here, I'll switch over so you guys can see what I'm doing. I had some live streams. Maybe it's just a video. Let me go back here. videos. See, I used to have time to do all these videos. Not as much anymore. Let's see. There's a specific screenshot I'm looking for. Maybe it was a live stream. Hang on. I think it's this one. Finding your Gandalf. So I think I talk in that one about the different aspects of that relationship. It's about an hour long. You can skip around. I don't think I was not doing like specific sections in there, so I don't think it's sectioned out. But that was one of my first. That might have been my first actual live stream. I don't know. Look at that, 18 views. Yeah, baby, 18 views. They hasn't gotten a whole lot better on the live streams. So oh well. Anyway, yeah, I think there is some stuff there. You might take a look at that if you wanted to. Let's see. What did I miss? Yeah, exactly. You're all fired. No, see, I this is a little bit different type of mentoring, right? These interactions are I wish that I could just do like real mentoring for lots of people all the time, but again, most of the time that doesn't pay, and and so it's I definitely need the income of a real job. So uh, yeah, Mel says that's what I worry about. I don't want to ask someone to mentor me if I can't keep to it for 6 months. What I would say is sit down with somebody and find out what you can do for 6 months. Um, Maybe it's a monthly interaction instead of a weekly interaction. I think you can get mentoring at different levels and at different times of engagement. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to look like one way, right? You can still get helpful mentoring even if it's um, not as regular as maybe you would prefer, because again, you do need to allow that to work around life, because life does happen. It gets in the way, and it makes it harder to do the things that we want to do often. So but I would say don't let that hold you back from getting mentoring. Talk to somebody and find out what works for them. You might find somebody who says, you know what, I only have probably an hour or two a month, and that works perfectly for you, and they can just give you some general direction on your journey of learning, right? I think it can look different for different people. I think that's the thing, we need to be careful of not just assuming it always looks like this way. Mentoring looks like this, and that's all it is. It looks different for different people, for different relationships, for different goals. So allow it to be flexible. Yeah, I would reach out just because you never know what's going on in someone's life. Um, Maybe they're discouraged and they're not interacting with you because they know they haven't met expectations, and maybe what they need is some encouragement to get back on the horse, and keep riding down the road and learning and growing rather than giving up. Um, that's part of the mentoring process too, is encouragement. And I think that would be one thing that might be hard depending on how strict you are with your regulations and your setup. It could in some instances be viewed as not necessarily harsh but demanding, and when somebody feels like they can't meet the demand, they might need some encouragement to keep going even if they've failed. The mark of someone who's going to be successful is not how many times they fail. The mark of someone who's going to be successful is how many times they get up after failure and keep moving forward. So you need to, as a mentor, be somebody that encourages them to keep getting up and keep moving forward. Yeah. All right. Well, we got about 4 minutes left. I think I'm going to go ahead and just cancel the last 4 minutes. Unless somebody pops in with a really good question right before we get off. That would, I'll talk about it, but I think I'm going to probably shut things down. Ming says, when I was mentored, I didn't really get any encouragement. Though he was my friend, I just kept putting the work in. Yeah. And I mean, at some point, you have to remember that it is on you as the mentee. It's not the mentor's job to make you a good developer. It's the mentor's job to provide guidance and encouragement and support. That's what a mentor does. A mentor doesn't magically change you. You have to put the work in. And if you are jumping into a mentoring relationship and you understand that reality and you don't put the work in, you're not going to get where you want to be. Yeah, I'm going to fire you for the last 4 minutes. Exactly. Ming says, what makes a good mentee? The thing that makes a good mentee is somebody who listens to advice and keeps going. What I mean by that is they listen to advice and they don't just ignore it. They listen to advice and they don't quit. They don't get frustrated when you give them feedback. They accept feedback and advice and counsel, and they integrate that into what they're doing, and they continue moving forward, making progress, even if the progress is very, very small. Again, everybody grows differently. Everybody learns at different speeds and different levels. We have to allow for that as mentors, especially. We can't compare one mentee to another mentee and as far as how quickly they move on in their progress. And you have to understand that everybody has different goals too. One mentee may have one goal and another mentee may have another goal. And we need to be able to help them reach both of those goals, potentially in different ways. And one way may be better for this and one way may be better for that. And we need to be able to offer them advice that will help in both of those directions. But the only way you're going to know that you have a good mentee is if they implement what you're telling them to do and they keep moving forward. It's one thing for somebody to say, I want to have a mentor. It's another thing for them to actually let the person mentor them. Because at the end of the day, that's what a good mentee is. It's somebody who's allowing themselves to be mentored. And being mentored means that you're actually taking the advice and applying it. Does that mean you have to do everything that the person says? No. But you should have some pretty good reasons why you're not doing it, other than just, I don't like that advice. I've actually worked with some people in the past on resumes and LinkedIn profiles and things like that. And basically the feedback was, I get what you're saying, but I just disagree. I'm like, why did you ask me if you think that you need help and you are looking for help and you're asking for help and then you ignore the help, why would you expect anything would be different in the end result? So that, at the end of the day, the willingness to take the advice and put it into practice as much as they can, that to me was what makes a good mentee. Speed isn't the issue. Knowledge isn't the issue. It's about a willingness to learn at the end of the day. Let's see. Yeah, that's a good point, Ian. Always remember that the way that you learn best may not be the best way for somebody else to learn. So even though you may be trying to mentor somebody, you may not be the best mentor for that person. I'm sure there are people that I've mentored in the past or that I've taught a coding class to or something like that they just don't learn the way that I teach or the way that I interact. And so we need to be willing to admit that as well and be willing to accept that, somebody else I may not be the best person to help that person for various reasons. And that's okay. We can't help everybody. as much as we would like to. But we also need to understand that that doesn't necessarily make them a bad mentee either, just because we may not be the best solution for them in the long run. So, okay. Thanks for the questions, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble on for 2 hours. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. If hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you for jumping on here and interacting with me on the live stream. We had quite a few people in here conversing this morning. So thanks for being active participants and making me feel like I'm actually talking to people who care to some degree what I have to say. So thanks again. Thanks for the work on the DeepPockets project. O'Neill especially, we got those pushed in. Don't forget those other tickets out there. Feel free to grab one. I'll be adding more this week as well as more designs. Don't forget to check out, if you are available, since most of you are halfway around the world, or a quarter of the way around the world. You may not be, but if you're available for the live stream, the LinkedIn lunch live stream, and I gotta practice that. The LinkedIn lunch live stream every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 p.m. Central United States time. Check that out. We're just going through LinkedIn and taking a look at posts and talking about them and seeing how we can help junior developers on their journey there as well. So thanks again. It's good to see everybody here. I look forward to seeing you all here next Saturday. I believe I should be here. We'll do the same stuff again next Saturday. So looking forward to the conversation. And obviously Tuesday and Thursday, don't forget to jump into that or watch it later like Mel does. And we'll keep moving forward. Again, you will probably see some of this content posted as shorts and things like that. If you'd like to help the channel, like it as you see it come across, even if you don't necessarily watch the whole thing or watch it. But that would be helpful to the channels as we're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Hit a lull, and now we're going to try to hit it hard and see if we can get another couple thousand subscribers on here. So I will see you all next week, and have a good weekend. Oh, by the way, go Chiefs.